Hello Azeroth. Today I'm here to introduce an update to one of the features introduced by Blizzard back in the Battle for Azeroth expansion, the Warfronts. These player versus environment game modes were a great addition to the game and gave the players a unique opportunity to play the Warcraft fantasy, mixed with some real-time strategy games aspects. But one of the most common complaints about the Warfronts was the fact that these scenarios were only available for PvE and not PvP. Let's see how to adapt them for players to play these epic battlegrounds against other players. But first, let's refresh our memories, giving us a little bit of context about the battle for Stromgarde. Lord Daneth Trollbane sent a letter to the King of the Alliance, Anduin Wrynn. The letter offered the young king a mutual cooperation. If the Alliance were to help the Lord of Aerithr to reclaim his lands from the Horde, Trollbane himself and his nation would pledge loyalty to the throne of Stormwind. After debate with his counselors and the Stormwindian noble houses, the Kingdom of New Stormwind decided to assist the Lord. The Alliance will raise its banner in support for the Kingdom of Stromgarde. But who will answer the call? The campaign over Kultiras cannot be dismissed, and the SI-7 has been deployed all over Zandalar. The Fourth War does not seem to be reaching an end anytime soon, adding new warfronts all across Azeroth while the numbers on both factions dwell. But the nation of Arathor could be exactly what the Alliance needs: new allies. Anduin trusts on Jaina Proudmoore to convince the armies of Kultiras to join the Alliance once more, but that will take some time. The Alliance needs to take immediate action if they want to win this war, and this battle seems like the right opportunity to strike the Horde and make allies all at once. On the other hand, the Horde seeks to control these lands to secure their position in the eastern kingdoms besides Silvermoon, and count with the opportunity to prepare an attack to the human kingdom of Gilneas due to its proximity. Several renowned names had been called to assist to this battle and serve their respective faction. The course of the Fourth War will be determined after the result of this battle. Will the Alliance proclaim victory and continue its assault to the remaining forces of the Horde on the continent? Or will Stromgarde fall beneath the Horde, leading to the assault on Gilneas? For now, know that the battle for Stromgarde is mainly a PvP battle that contains many stages, which some of them include one or more PvE aspects of the game. Since the battle for Stromgarde is a key asset in the Fourth War during the Battle for Azeroth expansion, this warfront is mainly story-driven. So expect to see heroes and allies of renown from both the Horde and the Alliance. The original idea of this warfront made by the developers is present here as well. You fight off the enemy faction, you have secondary objectives and key locations, but in order to win the match, you will need to defeat the enemy commander. Just to give you a glance of what you can expect to find in this upgraded version of the battle for Stromgarde, let's talk about structures, items, benefits, and objectives. The original battle offered a classic RTS or real-time strategy game for players to gather resources and use them in order to rebuild their base. Here instead we have both bases fully operational, with Argarok for the Horde seeking to conquer this land, while on the other hand we have the Nobel defenders of the Stromgarde Keep. Players can expect, for example, the Armory. Here they will be able to turn in their resources in order to earn special benefits for the battle ahead, such as improvements to your Hearthstone, a Horn of Arati which can be used to escape the enemy with ease, a whistle to call for aid, and if your allies answer your call you will be healed, medical bandages to keep you or an ally up in combat, and other useful items await you in the barracks of your base. Another useful asset the players can make use of in this battle are the new trinkets designed for Arati. Some of these are the Medallion and the Insignia, where the Medallion reduces the time you can be stunned and shields you whenever you lose control of your character, while the Insignia heals you if someone crowd controls you by a tiny amount but also reduces the damage taken by a significant amount while the crowd control persists. Another example of these trinkets is the Wyvern Tusk for the Horde members and the Griffin Feather for the Alliance soldiers. Both of these trinkets will increase your movement speed at all times, and the more people wearing them, the more movement speed bonuses you will get. And not only that, these trinkets also give you and your nearby allies a boost of movement speed whenever anyone around falls low on health, ally or foe. There's also an elemental stone that provides the holder with numeral benefits and an unstable azurite orb that consumes mana in order to increase your combat abilities, a boulder fist figurine if you wish to feel as strong as an ogre, a kobold candle to enlighten the minds of mana users, a voodoo juju that steals the life essence from your nearby enemies, stay away from the voodoo mon. And last but not least, flasks of local herbs. Some of them will aid you against your foes while others will make you more useful to your allies. Remember we said the original idea of this Warfront remains the same? Well, that means both the Argarok stronghold and the Stromgarde keep will need to be sieged in order for the players to raid the enemy commander and win the match. To help players achieve that, the war machines will be present and rolling in the battle for Stromgarde. If you played the Isle of Conquest epic battleground, think of that but implemented on this battle. Raid their fortifications, take down their gates and take the fight to the enemy commander for a chance to win the battle for Stromgarde. Beware though. You may have to fight both the enemy commander and the enemy players all at once. Now that we have defined the battle for Stromgarde to be a PvPvE battleground in which players will need to be in constant conflict throughout the entire battlefield, progressing through stages and still playing with some RTS elements. Let's check what those stages and events actually look like. As you get ready for the battle to commence, you get your new trinkets and powers ready for combat and the gates open. By now you should just charge forward and have fun with your team. The first event will take place only after a couple of minutes have passed since the gates open. Be sure to get some kills and resources before you go to the first objective of the match when it starts. Here are some of the objectives you can expect to be fighting for. King of the Hill, capture the flag, supply crates and payloads of ore and lumber. Eventually players will have to fight inside an arena as well. And if you think that's crazy, we are just getting started. There's an event in which both factions must raid an ogre cave simultaneously, and the faction that kills more ogres takes the win. But that's not all, there's also a race event similar to the one introduced in the Ashran epic battleground. And lastly, here's just a hint of what awaits you in the battle for Stromgarde. World boss and flying. Moving on, let's talk very briefly of what happens after you take the enemy gates down. Both factions can play on the offensive and defensive. This means that you can assist your commander if they engage in combat, and you can go assault the enemy commander when given the opportunity. Let's make it clear, when your gates are taken down, a magical dome will be summoned by the assaulting faction if they enter your base. If you are inside your base by any reason, it's up to you to stay and defend your commander or leave and go to the enemy base or really any other place you wish. If you, by the time your gates were just taken down and the enemy faction assaults your base entering combat with your commander, were outside your base, then in this case you must take down the magical dome impeding you from entering to your base, or just leave somewhere else. Engaging combat with the enemy commander can determine the winner of the match, hence all the work around it and why it's complicated, so you might as well read the document in order to get a better understanding of how the final stage of the battle plays. That brief explanation was an attempt to give you a glimpse of how to proceed when reaching the final stages of the battle for Stromgarde. A final note, healing fountains will make an appearance in this Warfront. Take a look at the healing fountains on Heroes of the Storm, they play the same role here. After 6 minutes, every single player will receive upgrades to their class, unlocking new powers and traits. The reasoning behind this is to make them feel they are fighting a greater battle than the regular ones they queue up for in the random Battlegrounds group finder. Here, players are fighting for a key location of the entirety of the Fourth War. Another point to keep in mind, this is not just a player versus player battleground, not even an epic battleground. This is a Warfront in which players will not only confront enemy players, but environmental aspects of the game as well. So if you are fighting such a large-scale battle, you should be powerful enough to withstand the conflict ahead. Speaking of powerful, let's talk about Death Knights. The Blood Death Knights will have an improved anti-magic zone, a permanent dancing rune weapon, and a new ability called March of the Necropolis, where you start swinging your weapon in front of you in order to deal damage and heal yourself for each enemy you hit. Unholy Death Knights will learn to summon a lich that will react to their commands in order to help them decimate their enemies, and upon dying an Unholy Death Knight will transform into a minion of the Scourge for a short period of time, having an opportunity to get revenge on their foes. A Frost Death Knight will instead be constantly surrounded by an unwavering cold that damages and slows his enemies, along with learning a new ability that creates a massive ice storm around them that negates the vision of anyone outside the storm, ally or foe. And as long as they remain inside this icy storm, they will obliterate their enemies. Quite literally. Demon hunters will retain their demon forms as long as they live. They will also see their hunting abilities enhanced if they do not enter their demonic form. However, if they embrace the demon within, they will learn new abilities. Some of these abilities were inspired by powerful demons such as the Dreadlords. Druids will be blessed by the forces of nature, feeling like you have almost two entire specializations at the same time. They will also learn new abilities related to their core spec, new devastating and defiant roars for the most ferals, a new ability called Seed of the Dreamer that allows the Restoration Druids to further support their allies or even to damage the enemy players. And to those more dedicated to the moon, there's a new ability that helps them fulfill both the role of a healer and a damage dealer with ease. Hunters will be hunters but better. Mages will see some of their resourceful spells have reduced cooldown or additional charges. Arcane mages will learn to create a time bubble that works similar to the powers the Grand Magistrix Elisande wielded in the Nighthold raid. Fire mages were inspired by the Prince Lord of the Blood Elves to incinerate their enemies with style. And frost mages learned a better ice block and an improved ice form. The monks will become stronger when fighting alongside other monks. They also learned new abilities and traits inspired by the august celestials they revere. Paladins will deliver justice to evil and protect the weak in the name of the light. Protection paladins will now shield their allies each time they attend to their wounds and also become a juggernaut of light for a burst of power. Holy paladins will spread the word, a passive trait that increases the effectiveness of some spells, and they have learned to create a dome of light to protect their comrades. Retribution paladins can now protect their allies in new ways, and they have also learned a new ability that is specially effective against death knights, demon hunters or undeads. Priests have received new abilities that will further improve what they do best. Disciplined priests have received training from the Scarlet Crusade, and now they know how to persuade the acolytes to confess their sins, and they can choose their own personal Renault to fight side by side the faithless and weak. Holy priests ascended into a greater state within the light, summoning a divine sword to their side that attacks your foes, and you can call upon the grace of heavens to heal your allies. The Shadow Priests will be healed a lot less by the light as they embrace the void even more to inflict even more damage to their enemies. They can also drag an enemy to the void realm to consume their minds and end with their miserable lives. Rogues have mastered their own ways of slaying their foes. Assassination deals massive amounts of damage to isolated targets, and they can collect bounties now. Also, you might want to hold hands with an ally whenever you face an assassin rogue. Their new skill called Flawless Assassination is perfect to annihilate any isolated target. Outlaw rogues are now thrilled for combat, keeping the pace of a fight with more ease. They can also rely on either a new ability that can dispatch multiple enemies at once, or another new ability that intends to finish off a single target. Subtlety rogues have mastered the shadows, learning to create copies of themselves that will interact with their skills. Shamans have further increased their flow of elemental power. Restoration shamans will see their healing rain greatly empowered and a new element to ascend to. Elemental shamans will call upon the devastating strikes of the storm to crush their foes, while enhancement shamans have reached a new element to heed their call and shatter their enemies. Warlocks are known for bringing havoc and ruin wherever they go. Not everyone likes to hang around them, and now more than ever you should be worried when having one of these power-hungry madmans as an ally. On top of being able to increase their own powers at the cost of their allies' sake, the warlocks have learned to summon even more powerful demons from the twisting nether. Warriors will share 3 new abilities regardless of their specs: Sprint, Unrivaled Strength, and Third Wind. Additionally, each specialization of warrior will learn new abilities that either involve their own playstyle or add new skills to unleash upon the battlefield. We have come to the final part of the battle, the end boss fight that will decide which faction wins. As we stated before, these are actual boss fights where you and your team must follow the mechanics in order to be victorious. Now, they are not intended to have the same level of difficulty of a final raid boss of a raid tier like Ashara or Kil'jaeden, for example. Think of them more like the first boss of a raid. Hard but manageable. Be sure to read their abilities so when the time comes, you would know exactly what to do and where to stand. And where you shouldn't. As a bonus, your class or race might receive additional buffs depending on your commander while fighting alongside them. The Horde has summoned some mighty heroes from the past to the battle, but they were not the only ones who heeded the call of battle. New brave souls have made their way to the Arati Highlands to earn a place for their people amongst the Horde. The ones commanding the forces of Argarok will be High Warlord Cromish, Sunwalker Desko, Haldurin Brightwing Amod, leaders of the tribes and the Stonemaul clan. The High Warlord Cromish's war campaign lead him to the continents of Zandalar and Kultiras, and his contribution to the Horde's effort are more than remarkable. But the Horde still needs the Maghar Orc's strength and leadership. Summoned to the human lands of Arothar, the uncorrupted Orc will do what he does best one more time: fight the Alliance. When the Tauren paladin heard about the upcoming battle for Stromgarde, he didn't hesitate and volunteered to join forces and lead the brave soldiers of the Horde into enemy territory. Seeking to preserve the Horde's honor, the Sunwalker Desko will be at the front lines of the battlefield, representing the Horde's best. Talking about the Forestal Ranger, he was sent by Lor'themar Theron in order to secure the Horde's presence within the Eastern Kingdoms. As one of Lor'themar's most loyal soldiers and his friend, Haldurin enlisted to the battle for Stromgarde, trusting his Regent Lord's vision. The Goblin Squad has already proven the potential of Goblin's genius, and their creative machinations are no exception. A machine of death. The campaign over Zandalar and Kultiras has already seen the incredible power this mech can unleash. Now the squad leader Patch got news about a new Warfront. And he wouldn't miss any opportunity to show his invention's might to the Alliance, and earn some profit. Ever since the Horde arrived at the continent of Zandalar, the relationship between the Zandalari trolls and the races of the Horde grew up stronger each day. But what about the troll tribes that were not part of the Horde? Well, after decades of fighting the Horde and through an important set of events that lead to the Horde parley with these troll tribes, they now have the opportunity to prove themselves worthy of a spot inside the Horde. What awaits for these leaders? Will they succeed in adjoining their tribes into the Horde? If you would like to know more about them, read their novel leading to the Battle for Stromgarde and the Battle for Stromgarde story, WIP, to know how did their story continue. And finally, the Stonemaul clan led by the Ogre Tharg and the Moknathal Orc Orhan. He represents the brutal strength of the clan, while she is the prime example of the clan's savagery. Years have passed since the Stonemaul clan joined forces with the Horde. And just recently Rexer, the champion of the Horde, has reminded them their place remains with the Horde, wherever this leads. The High King Anduin Wrynn has openly established his support to the Kingdom of Arether and Lord Daneth Trollbane in his claim to defend his lands from the Horde. The Alliance will aid the human kingdom to repel this invasion from the Defilers, and some of the great heroes who answered the call of battle were Lithva, Mardigon son of Carline, Falstad Wildhammer, the Gmod, the Houses of Kultiras and the natives of Argus. Since the Lightforged pledged their allegiance to the Alliance, Turalion sent one of his most confident allies to the Arethi Warfront to help the nation of Arether in repealing the Greenskins and their horde out of human lands. Lithva is a skillful general of the Lightforged, and she will undoubtedly prove to everyone that the Lightforged are one of the strongest allies the Alliance has, and that the Horde should fear them. Mardigon is the son of Carline, one of the members of the Council of Six, but he is also a true son of the Alliance. His young age and the social status of his own father have always interfered with the young Mardigon's wish to serve the Alliance. Always sent away from danger, always overprotected, always without permission. This time around, through words and diplomacy, Mardigon managed to convince his father and the higher-ups within the Alliance for a chance to serve his faction the way he knows best, by sword. But is the young and unexperienced man ready for the Warfront? We will see about that soon enough. Falstad Wildhammer has been a loyal member of the Alliance for years now, and once more he has proven his loyalty when volunteering to fight for the Kingdom of Arether. The High Thane of the Wildhammer clan is now on top of Swiftwing, flying on his way to crack some skulls. When the gnomes heard about the next location to where the Alliance was taking the fight in the Fourth War, they thought best to stay at Zandalar, continuing the Alliance campaign over enemy territory. But things changed when they heard about the goblins stealing their schematics and constructing one of the gnomes' invention as if it was theirs. Even worse, the goblins would unleash that mech upon the soldiers of the Alliance in the upcoming battle for Stromgarde. Just unacceptable. The gnomes will take their own golden machine of death to the battleground, to see which one is better. Word spread with haste about this upcoming event. A nation of old seeking to reclaim their lands and pledge his kingdom to the Alliance. Across the sea, in Borealis, the Houses of Kultiras were finally assembled and united once more after many years of isolation. Things were at last under control all over Kultiras, and that was thanks to the arrival and support of the Alliance. It was time to return them the favor, so the leaders of the houses came to an agreement. The Houses of Kultiras would join the fight on the Eastern Kingdoms. They would aid the nation of Arether in restoring their kingdom's prosperity and claim their rightful lands. To the surprise of many, Captain Faria and the chieftain Hatuan have both answered the call of Arether. Ever since the brave heroes of Azeroth fought the Legion back in their own homeworld Argus, the Lightforged enlisted many of their soldiers in service of the Alliance. Captain Faria knew this was her opportunity to demonstrate her worth to the Alliance. and somehow she convinced the cunning and broken chieftain Hatuan. That's it for today. Join me next time to get a detailed view of the boss fights that will await you in the battle for Stromgarde. There's a total of 12 commanders and each of them will have a unique way to fight the players. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you on Azeroth.